Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the Snap Reports class today. I hope everyone can hear me well. We are broadcasting today to YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Just allow me maybe a couple of seconds to make sure we are arriving well to all the different platforms. Feel free to say hello in the chat so that I know that you can hear me. Just a second here. I'm just uh, watching the page where the tool where I am setting up the broadcast to Instagram. Please note that Instagram may only allow for 1 hour. Hopefully the class will be less than 1 hour, but if you are watching us from Instagram and at some point the connection does not work, please feel free to watch us, to jump into YouTube, where you can find our channel, Celia Alves, Solve and Excel, or just the link would be Celia Alves, Solve Excel, all in after youtube.com. You can find us there. Okay, so just finishing here because it doesn't really allow me to create the podcast, the session on Instagram before time. I really need to do this, or it does, but I need to refresh everything to make it work. So thank you for your patience. I hope you are enjoying your Saturday today. And thank you for joining me on a Saturday. And congratulations for investing. Congratulations for investing some of your time to learn something new that can help you with your work. So, okay, so I'm just finishing here, copying a link here. Okay, hopefully this will work well. Also, I have been having internet issues with my provider since yesterday. Apparently, there's something going on since yesterday after our live class at the end of the day, and they haven't fixed it completely. So I am in fact using my mobile data to broadcast. Hopefully this will go well. Okay, so we have Nuno. Thank you, Nuno, for joining us. And Claudia. Hi, Claudia. Nice to see you. And we have Malik. Would this be available on YouTube? Yes. Let me put the link here so that you know how you can find us on YouTube. Try the link that I just posted on the chat. You can jump into there. Maybe it's easier to watch there than on Facebook or Instagram, but all the platforms are working now. Apparently, I'm not sure about Instagram. It doesn't, let me see. Doesn't seem that Instagram is working well. I'm just giving it another try, and if it doesn't work, then we'll just move on to our class. Thank you for your patience. Hi, Raim. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. So it seems that Instagram has having some problems today, or my tool to connect with Instagram. That's fine. So no problem at all. No problem at all. I'm just closing some things here and we'll just move on with the other two platforms, okay? Okay, so thank you again for joining us. Yes, those of you who were in the class yesterday saw one invoice template that I showed that I used the template, pre-built template, and then I automated some of the things that would have to be done manually otherwise. So I'm going to show again what we are going to, the final result that we are trying to achieve, and then I'll teach you the steps that I took to get to this final version, okay? So let me share my screen and let's start this class. Just okay. Oh, it's, you know, this is so many different windows. We are trying to cover everything. Okay, so let me share my screen. And we will go from there. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. You are looking at my file explorer where I have some files. The file that we are building today is this one that I have here that says Invoice Template Final. If it is too small, let me know and I'll try to do some zoom in. Okay, so this is a template. I'll show you where I got the template. It's an invoice template, and not all the countries. For example, I think in Portugal it's not so easy that companies can use Excel templates for their invoicing process. But in Canada, it's very common that companies use Excel templates for their invoices to issue their invoices. So it depends. But the tricks and the features that we are going to use today with an invoice template can perfectly be used with other processes. It's just a matter of you learning, understanding them, and then apply the same kind of features and tricks into other processes. Okay, so I'm going to show you one file here, and this is for those of you who were not at the previous class yesterday to understand what we are building. The other ones already saw this yesterday. Thank you for your patience so that we can bring everyone into the same page. So this file has, it's called company data. And usually we would have separate files for the different sets of information that I have on this file. Just for this class, I decided to put everything into one file only, but most likely in most of the cases, companies would have separate files to store employees information, to store products information and invoices and all that. But here we have one sheet for each thing. We have a sheet for employees that we really don't need for this invoicing process. We have a sheet with information about the stores that we also do not need. We have another sheet with information about products. We will need that. So when we are issuing an invoice, we want to be able to enter the product ID and get all the information, product color and size and the price there on our invoice. And we have the client's information here with their addresses, email address, and the payment terms. And we also have a separate table where we register all the invoices that we sent out. So at this point, we have up to invoice 2038. And we are about to create another new invoice. Okay, I'm going to close this. Better to close this file. I don't need to save. I didn't do anything here. And when I opened my template, notice what we have here. We already have here the last number we captured on opening this file, captured the last invoice that is available on our list of invoices on the other file. So the next invoice would have to be number 2038 plus 1, 2039, as indicated here. It already puts me the date, today's date there. I don't have to type it. And then here, this would be our company information, the best company ever. And then we are able to just choose a customer ID. We can either choose from the drop down, or if we know it by heart, for example, 110017, we can simply type it. Doesn't match. Why doesn't match? Oh, I know why it doesn't match, because this is formatted by as text. And when I type 110017, so that's something that we can fix. But at this moment, let's just do, if I put in, when this happens, if we put a single quote, 110017, it makes Excel interpret this as text, and now it works. This is because I formatted the client ID number, customer ID number on our data source as a text field. I really didn't have to do that, but in these cases, I do like to do that because if we are expecting that the customer ID has, in this case, 5 digits, and there's zeros at the beginning of that sequence of digits, if we are not working with text, those zeros will go away, and this can be a problem. So that's why I ended up. So, but you see, by typing the customer ID, all the client information, name and address and email already, telephone number and email already came in. And the same happened with the terms, payment terms. I know that this client, his or her payment terms are due upon receipt. What else can we see here? I'm trying to zoom out. Then here we also have data validation drop-down menu. Oh, it's showing on my other screen. Sorry for that, but I can pick a client. I know how to do this. Just zoom out. Okay. Let's do this again. Okay. So when I do this, I can have this drop down and I can pick from here, or I could also type in the product information, and immediately it brings me the product description, the price, and this particular invoice template came with this feature here that is explained here that says the quantity is assumed to be 1 if the left if it is left blank. I mean, if the quantity is left blank here, we the formula here on the amount is assuming that we mean quantity equal to 1. So if I leave it blank, or if I put 1 here, it's the same result. But if I put 2, then it multiplies the total by 2, the unit price by 2, and we have the double here. Okay, and then we also have this button that says Save Invoice. Let me zoom out a little bit so that we can show this. And here on our folders, we have one folder that says Invoices. We have invoices up to 2038. So let's imagine this purchase is only this product, 2 units. We are ready to go. We have invoice 2039 with a total of $79.10, 13% applied in tax rate, and 9.10 tax amount, $70 before taxes. I would want to register all this information into my list of invoices, and I want to also create a PDF copy of this invoice to then send to the client. Just click this button, Save Invoice, and there we have our invoice, PDF invoice created immediately. It's named, the name of the invoice, the name of the file is number of invoice, and then the name of the client. I chose it to be like that, but you can decide on something different. So we can close it. Invoice saved, okay. And if we, let me just go back into the invoice. If we look into the folder, we have the PDF saved there. Also, if we look into the company data file, we will see that we have on the invoices, we now have all the information registered there. I didn't have to worry about it. It just went there with that click of a button. The only thing is that the date formats in the table somehow don't expand correctly. I'm not sure why. Okay, so let's go and see how this is done. Let me know if you are curious about this. What is the most intriguing? Let me take Raim's comment out of there, because we already said hi. Good morning, Celia. Hi, Grain. Nice to see you. Thank you, Claudia. Yeah, you know what? The comments are on. Let me let me just put my face here for a bit. The comments are on my left, on another screen, and I'm so focused here on my main screen, where I am, the one that I'm sharing with you, and where I have my files, that sometimes I forget. And this is what happens where you are a newbie newbie with broadcasting live. So thank you for your patience, and hopefully I will get better at this. Okay, so what was I saying? I was going to ask you, of all these things that you saw in the automation, which one is the most intriguing for you? If there's one at all, I'm not sure if you have done this type of automation before. Let us know there on the comments if you have done something similar, or if there is something that sounds interesting to you that you would like to learn today. And meanwhile, I'm going to just close my files here. We don't need this file. I can just simply close it without saving. And let's go back. Let's go back maybe here. And let's start our conversation here, our process of building our template. So I already showed you the file company and data file. And now we are going to see how we can look for a template that is already available. Or of course you can use your own. Maybe you work for a company and you already have your own, the company's template in use there in Excel maybe. And if that's the case, maybe today you will learn a few things that you can use and implement to help you with that process if it's not automated yet. Okay, so if you open Excel, when you go, we are just opening Excel and we are going to create a new, you come here to new, you can search for templates. And you see here, it's very slow. Like I mentioned, my connection today is not the best one, but you can try later. If you come here and say invoice, this will search for different templates available, and you can look through them and see which one is more interesting to you. That's how I found the template that I'm going to open now. It's this book one file. It comes as an XLSX file, so just a regular Excel file. And this is the file exactly how I downloaded it. It comes from, it's built by this company Vertex 42. They do a lot of Excel templates and make them available. Some are for free. So we have their information there. And then they put some information here on the side. Let me save this file as, let me just start by saving this file, and then we will go from there. Okay, so I mentioned that I was going to use a template, and it's not just in terms of this is a template like a file that I will reuse, but I also am going to save this file as a extension XLTM, so as a template file. It's a different type of file in Excel. If we go File, Save As, here we can look for Excel templates, and we have XLTX, which is let's call it regular template, or a template without macros. And then we have an Excel macro enabled template, XLTM. Since I'm going to build some macros to help me with the process of saving the PDF and all that, I'm going to choose this version here. When we switch to a macro-enabled template file, we Excel automatically switches us to this default folder where it saves templates, but we can look for another folder. So I'm going to just use the folder where I have the other files, and I'm going to put here Invoice Template live class, live. Okay. So this is our file today. Okay, so it's too small, sorry. I told you I was a newbie here. Okay. So let me see the comments. Jenna, thank you for coming today. She's here for the first time. Nice to have you here. I hope you like it. I'm so sorry for I was showing you the file on a small window. I'm not sure. I didn't see any complaints there, but I'm going just to repeat it a little bit. I opened the template. I showed you the template file, and I was showing you that I opened the file, and then I went to save it as a template. And I will explain what a template, why I like to use a template in this case. I did save as, and then here I chose the format that says, where is it? Where is it? Excel workbook. No, I chose this one, Excel macro enabled template, XLTM. This is the format that I use here. When we do this, Excel switches us to this folder by default, but then you can go and save it on any other folder you want, okay? And that's what we did. So I'm going to go back. We don't need to save this. This was the template that I found on Microsoft's online templates collection. Okay, so now we are here on this template, and we are going to explore it and see some of the things that we can improve to help us with our invoicing process. Okay, so let me take a look here to see if I didn't forget anything. Okay, so now before we do the changes, I would like to explain you, if in case you haven't, you are not aware yet, how the template works. So when I saved it, if you take a look at here at the top, we see the file is saved as the name that I gave to the file, Invoice Template _live XLTM. So this is my master copy of the template. If I close the file and go back to the folder where I have the file saved, the file is in here. If I double click to open the file, let's see what happens. When we look at here at the top, the name is not the same. It says Invoice Template. So the name of the Invoice Template _live, the name of the file, but then it doesn't give me the extension, and it puts a 1 in the name. And what it means is that this file is not saved yet. If I go and choose to save, this will ask me how, where, and what the name is that I want to save the file. And if you see here, it's suggesting me XLSX, which is the regular extension for an Excel file. So what we are doing is that when we double click on a template file, Excel file, we don't open the master file. We do not open the master file. We open a copy of that file, meaning that any changes that we do there are not being saved on the master file. And then at the end, we are given the option of saving what we did or not. And then we can choose if we want to save it or not. So when can an Excel template be useful? Every time you are in a situation where we have something, an actual that you call the template, something that you need to reuse over and over. You don't want to add information to it, considering the previous times you use the file. You want to start fresh with that file again and maybe fill in some information into some of the fields. And then the next time you want to start with the file cleaned again. So that's when you may want to look at the option of using an Excel template. Also, another thing is that if different people need to use these template to repeat the same action, and they may need to use the file at the same time. This way, you don't have the problem of one person having to wait for the other person if you are working, for example, on a server or on a shared folder where you cannot, you need to use separate copies of the file, and one person doesn't have to wait for the other one. So this way, every time someone does a double click to open the file, opens a fresh copy of that template. Okay. So that's how we open a copy. But now you may say, okay, so but if I want to do modifications in the master file, how do I open the file then? Because if I'm opening a copy and then it's not reflected on the main file, so to do that, one of the options is to come here, right click, instead of double clicking, right click and do open. Or I think if you open Excel first and then look for the file and open from Excel also works. So you see now here at the top, I can see that I am working with the actual template file. Okay. So let's explore this file and see what we have here in terms that what is that the template already brings. I'm going to start cleaning it a little bit so that we don't have so much visual clutter here. So can delete this. I can delete this. I don't need that. You can change the terms to due date. So here it says by default, it just comes with this text inserted in there, and they are saying that we can enter the due date instead. So okay, we will use that information later. How to send an invoice to a client: save or print the worksheet as a PDF, save a copy of the invoice for your records, and email the PDF to the client. The only thing that we are not going to do today is the email portion, although it's possible to automate Excel to also look for the invoice, open an email, attach the invoice, send the email. It's possible to do that, and it's not very difficult, in fact. The quantity, let's leave that note here so that we don't forget. Enter the appropriate Excel tax rate. So for this example today, I'm going to just use 13%, which is the tax rate for my province here in Canada. In anywhere where you are, you can just input the tax rate. It could be possible that you have a situation where the tax rate varies depending on the client. Then in that case, you just have to have that information on your client's table. And then the same way we are going to bring the other fields, you can also create a formula here to look for the proper tax rate. Okay. Change the currency. I'm going to stay with the dollar sign. Enter then a note such as paid in full, thank you, if this is a receipt. Okay. Remember to update this information. So this is the company information. Here we can update and put this the way we want. So this will be a fixed information in our file. So we are about to start modifying our templates. Let me just look into the comments here, see if there are any questions. see if there are any comments about the features that I was asking you, if there is anything that makes you intrigues you the most. Let's see. So we have Nidhi here, and we have Kuram and Gianna. Thank you for attending today's class. Let me know what are you looking for to the most to learn today from the demonstration that I did before. Okay, Celia, don't forget to maximize your screen. Okay, so let's go and change our template. Here we'd say, now, if you have any questions about this invoice, please contact. So we can put name, phone, and email address. I'm saying John Smith, which is our sales manager, telephone number 111 111 1111, and email address John at thebestcompanyever.com. That's the name of our company. It's the best company ever. How do you like that? The best company ever.com. I think it's well spelled, but it's not. If it's not, it's no big deal for this demonstration. And here the same thing. So this is fixed information. In fact, in many cases, what I do is I put this information in the header instead of the rows, but the template comes like this, and for this purpose we will do that way. In other classes I may show you how I do that, how I use the header and the footer, take advantage of that to add some interesting and useful information depending on the type of process that we are automating. So the best company ever, that's the name of our company. And then we could put the street, wonderful street. That's where we are located. And that's the Rainbow City. Doesn't matter the province, and so forth. And the phone, same thing, 111 111. So this is just, of course, just for the demo purposes. But this is something that you would have to change in your template. So here you would put your actual information about your company, and you do this once and that's it. So let's save. Okay. So now let's look at the formulas that already come with this template, explore them, and see what we have here. So the invoice number is being entered manually. The customer ID is being entered manually. This is manual. This is manual. And then here is where we would enter manually. If we don't have a system, automated system, we would enter the elements from about our clients manually. Here is where we would have to enter the description of our products, the quantities, and the unit prices. Everything so far is manual. The only thing that we have already some formulas some functions to help us is in here. So in the amount section, we have if F16. Let me put this maybe a little bit bigger to help those with smaller monitors or screens. So with our function is saying if cell F16, where we enter the quantity, is empty, then the amount will be 1 times what is in G16, so the unit price, and then round that to 2 decimal places, just in case the unit price has multiple decimal places. Otherwise, if the quantity is not empty, then what we do is multiply the quantity times the unit price and round to 2 decimal places. Okay. I'm not sure if you are hearing some noise from my background. If you do, I apologize. My husband is also having an online class. He's not giving an online, but attending an online class. So hopefully we don't disturb each other. But that's our circumstances today. So we have here the formula to give us the amount based on the quantity and the unit price. And that's the same formula throughout this column here, down to this last row. So we have a limited number of rows that we can use. So we are assuming that usually we don't issue invoices with more than these 10 or 15 rows or something like that. And in here, under the subtotal, let me zoom out a little bit because so that we can see. So here, if I double click in the formula, I can see the cells affected included in the form. It's a sum. We are summing all the amounts, and then for the subtotal, and then here is just a number indicated manually. It's a percentage. We can maybe take out the decimal places, leave one or none, depending on your situation. Depending on what you need. And then the tax amount already has a function here saying it's that total amount times 13% in this case. So it's cell H31 times cell H32. So that's fine. It's calculates. And then of course the total sums up the subtotal plus the tax amount. So this is what we already get when we I'm going to save the file again, and this is what we already get with our template. Okay, so what is that we need? What would be nice to have instead of having to do manually? What are the things that you are looking for to input instead of doing manually? Any suggestions? Let me see if you are awakened there. What is that we can automate? And so the first, there are a few things that we can automate. Let's see if someone can give us a hint there. What is that you see that would be interesting to see automated? Let's see. No suggestions? Any suggestions? What is that we can automate here? No inputs. Let's see if someone offers some notes, some suggestion. Let's look for example, the date. The date, if I'm opening the file and I can consider that by default, I'm wanting to enter today's dates. Gran says everything. Yes, pretty much everything, except deciding which products go into the invoice. Although if we already had a list of sales, maybe we could also automate that. And then dates and numbers, Gianna, yes. Okay, that's good suggestions. So of course, let's go start and with the date. So the date can, if we assume that we always want to issue the invoice with today's date, we can put a formula here that says today. This is a function that doesn't even require any parameters, just like that, today, and enter. And by doing that, it automatically puts today's date there, okay? Every time you open the file, you already know it has today's date. If for some reason you want to write in a date in the past, 2 days ago, you just overwrite the formula, enter the date that you want. And if you and there's no problem because you are working on a copy of the master file, of the master copy of the template, so you are not damaging your template. When you are ready with this invoice, you close this file, and the next time you open a new copy, it's good again. The formula will be there for you. Okay, so let's save. That one is done. Then the customer ID, I have a list of customer IDs on my other file. I have the information about the terms. I have information about what the invoice number should be, and I have the information for the client there. So what I really need to do at this point is to find a way to bring the information from that other file. And one of the ways we can do for that is to use Power Query. Okay, let me maybe put my screen here bigger. Okay, so let's use Power Query to bring that information from the company data file. Okay, and I will go here at the top, Data tab, Get Data from File, from a workbook. It could be in other cases that you would have to go and connect to a folder, but in today's class, that's what our situation. Just look for the place where I have the file. I have it here, company data. And for those of you who have not used Power Query yet, take a look at my previous classes. There's a few classes about Power Query, and there's also a presentation. There's a presentation that I recently did to Microsoft Excel Toronto Meetup group, where I explain the very basics of what a Power Query is and how it can be useful for you. And by the way, that information plus any useful links, plus the files that I'm using in today's class and all the other live classes that are posted on YouTube, they will be available. Let me bring up my face here. So all these files they will be available for you if you are interested in practicing and following along, or you watch the video and following along. And for that, you would to have access to that, you would have to join. Let me bring here Telegram. So if you go to, I think it's http and then t.me/Celia Alves solve Excel. This is my channel in Telegram. If it doesn't work, then you can see here, Telegram. There we go. Like I said, the connection is a little bit slow today, but you can really enter this channel, and you will have access to all the files and all the information that I put available there, not only for today, but even the past notes, you will have access to them. So in that regards, it will be better than with a WhatsApp channel, for example. Other people in the same channel won't have access to your phone number, so your privacy is saved there. So that's an option. Just wanted to let you know about that. Okay, so going back, we were looking at connecting to the file where we have the information about clients, employees, etc. So I did get data from get data from file, from workbook, and I now have a list of all the tables and sheets in that workbook. Since I have tables there, and again, there's a previous class where I just talked about the advantages of working with tables, we are going to use tables. Those are the ones with this blue icon there. So I need information about clients, and because I want to select multiple items, I'm going to check on this icon there. And I'm going to say, I want to bring in the clients table. I want to bring the employees. No, I don't need the employees. I need the invoices information. I need the products information, and I don't need the stores. So these are, in fact, the three ones that I need. And from here, I go transform data. Okay, this will open a window, an editor. It went to my other screen. It's here. It will open Power Query editor. Power Query lives inside Excel, and now we are operating in Power Query. On the left, I have a separate query for each one of the tables that I brought. They are brought as separate queries, each one separate from the other ones. And here I have the steps. So let's start with clients. Let's start with clients and see what we need to transform here. I need the client ID. The first name and the last name, in fact, I wanted to have them together. And I need the address information, city, state, zip number, phone number, email address, and I need all this information. The only thing that I really want is that first name and last name are together into just one column. Here on the right, we have the different steps applied. So the source is the step where it looks into the location where the data source is. Then navigation is where Power Query said, okay, so you want me to go to this table named clients, okay. And then Power Query by default changes the data types for you. I'm going to, let's leave it, in this case, we can leave it here. Usually it is best to do the change type at the end, okay? Here at the top, we have the name of the query. It decided to put a 4 besides the name of the table. So I'm going to delete that 4. I don't really need that 4 there, and just having clients, it's easier. And the only transformation we need is to select these two columns and tell Power Query, you know what, bring me all this information, but before you bring it to me, just make sure you put this just into one. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Oh my goodness. I should have someone connected with me on WhatsApp or something, and a buzz here on my ear and yelling at me every time I do these mistakes. Okay, so I have to repeat it. I'm sorry, and thank you for your patience. I'm going to do what I did here. So what we did was data, get data from file and from workbook. This is what happens when we work live. And then here I said I want to bring the information from my data file. And here I went and said, I want to select multiple items, and I want the tables, the blue icon ones, and I want to bring the clients, and I want to bring the information about invoices and products. Okay, I selected those and I said transform data because they are not ready exactly the way I want. Okay, and when I do that, it starts processing. And what did I do? Transform. Okay, okay, so now it brought me the something went wrong, not wrong or not the way I wanted. Let's see. Queries and connections. Oh, it's open in another. Okay, there we go. So it opens this Power Query window. And what I was saying is we need all this information. The only thing is that we want first name and last name together into just one column. So let's go, and here we have the name of the query. And I don't want clients for to be the name, I just want clients. So just change and then enter. Here we have the different steps, and the first step is the source where Power Query says, okay, you want me to go to this file. And then the navigation step is where it says, oh, okay, you want me to look and bring you the table named clients, fine. And then this change step was applied automatically, change type step. And this is where Power Query decides to guess what kind of data type we have here. Like I said before, client ID is not a number per se. It's because I'm not going to do any calculations with it. So I like to put this, format this as text. Power Query thought this would be a whole number. Replace current step, okay. And then first name, last name has this icon that says ABC, so it's text, being considered text. Address, city, everything is text. And what else do we have here? We have, I think everything else is text. State, the zip code. The zip code is the same thing, should be in fact text. We don't need to make calculations with it. But if you leave it as a number, it shouldn't be a problem. The phone number is also text for the same reason. And email address, text, payment terms, text. Okay. So the only thing I want Power Query to do is to get these two columns. So I selected one and then Control, selected the other one, and then we can come here to transform and say and ask merge columns. Say merge these two columns. And when we do that, it brings us a new window here and asks us, what's the separator? The separator is space. I want a space in between the first name and the last name. And what is the name that I want to give to the column? I will say client name or customer name, depending on what you prefer, client name, or maybe just even name if it's not confusing. Okay. By doing that, you see that those two columns disappeared and were transformed into just one column where we have first name and last name all together into just one column. And isn't that wonderful? So we are done with our first table. The other tables are here on the left. So we have a second query for the products. Let's go to the products first. Again, we have the same steps here: source, navigation, change type, and the name products tree. We don't need the three, so let's put just products. And then let's look at the type, data types. So I need the product ID. I need these three pieces of information: the product, what product it is, and then the color and the size, but I need them all together into just one column. So I'm going to hold down Shift and then go to the last one of the three that I want. And then we can do the same thing. So transform and merge columns. And in this window, we can do the same thing. Put a space as a separator. We could maybe put a comma or something else if we prefer to see the different fields separated with something else other than a space. And then here I can name it product description. Okay. So now we have a product ID, we have a product description, both considered text. And in here, the price is being said that it's a whole number, but it could not be a whole number. Let me delete that change step from here and do delete. And let's do the last step. Let's do that again. So now we are going to decide ourselves on the data types that we want. We can use this detect data type that in fact does that work of guessing the data type for us. And it's decided product ID is text, product description is text, and price, it's not sure. So when we have ABC123, it's the data type any. We want to tell it that it's currency, or it could be a decimal data type as well. So we have all the data types here, and we are good to go for about these products file data. We have what we need. We cleaned it a little bit, or rearranged it a little bit. We merged these columns. So now we can, on our invoice, we will be able to type in the product ID, and immediately we will find the functions that will give us the product description and the price. Okay, the invoices table, again, we can change this to invoices. Here, the name did the same steps. That's fine. Let's leave it there. And what the only thing I need here is to get the information about what is the last number already existing in my list of invoices. So I only need this column. In fact, I'm going to remove, I clicked here, I did right click and then remove other columns. And from here, I want to say, go to statistics in the transform tab, go to statistics and give me the maximum. Do I have the maximum? No, I'm not correct. Clicking the right button. Statistics here, go to statistics and give me the maximum. Oh, not minimum. Go back. We can delete any mistake from here on the right. Again, transform, statistics, and then maximum. If we see here at the top, Power Query gives us the formula in M code that corresponds to this new step that we have here. And this is what will allow us to, the next time, be able to refresh and reproduce the same steps without having to do all over again. So if we are in fact programming, but we are not typing the code, we are just using the user interface that Power Query offers us. So this query here brought us to this final value, which is 2039. Okay, so we can go and just now that we did all the transformations that we need in the three pieces of data, we can go and do close and load. And I'm going to choose close and load 2 so that I can choose what I need. I'm going to do a table for all of them. I need to bring that information physically into my file. So I'm going to say table, and I'm going to choose new worksheet, and then OK. And now we wait a little bit, and Power Query creates one sheet for each one of the queries. So we have one sheet that in the most recent versions of Excel already is named automatically after the name of the query. It may not happen in older versions. So now we can maybe bring this there. The invoice, let's first look at the clients. Let's bring the clients there, or maybe before. And the invoices, in fact, I would want to see, it's nice to see this on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invoices. Here on the right, I'll go and do load to. Let me put this a little bit bigger. Load to, and then I'm going to switch the loading location to only create connection first. Okay, this will tell me, oh, your table will disappear. And I say, okay, that's fine. So now we have an empty sheet that I don't need anymore. I can delete this sheet. Okay. And then we can go to our invoice and say our invoice sheet template. Maybe we can reduce this a little bit. And maybe here then to column K, I can say, go here again, load to, and let's load to a table into an existing worksheet and suggested range K1. That's fine. Okay. So now I have my query being loaded into that cell. Okay, let's go and save. And we will get a different message, a new message now when we save. Let's look at that. It says that this workbook contains external data. This is because we are using a template extension type of file. Yes, we do we do have connections to external data. Do you want Microsoft Excel to clear the data before saving the template and then automatically refresh the data whenever the template is opened? Yes, please do that. And then it comes with this warning saying, oh, you know what? Some of the things won't work if you are opening this file in older versions of Excel. Excel 97 2003 or 2007 query elements will not work. And then some of the things with the query elements of this workbook will not work correctly in 2010 and 2013. And here we have this check mark, check compatibility when saving this workbook. If I am on a situation where this template may be needed to, maybe used by other users in older versions, maybe I want to have this enabled so that I can look at this information all the time, and when I save and see if there's nothing that other users won't be able to really have on their spreadsheet when they open the file. But since this is not the case, I'm going to uncheck and continue so that we are not getting this warning all the time every time we save the file. So the file is saved. Let me check here in the comments and see if there are any questions. Please share your screen. Yeah, but now I'm sharing my screen, right? Let me know if I missed something. Okay, Jenna is saying that she's been looking to learn about the templates before. I'm happy that the class will be useful for you, Jenna. And I hope or Gina, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly. Okay, Celia, remember to maximize your screen. Thank you, Gina, for the feedback. Yes, your screen is shared. Okay, so let's go back. And so we have a template file that not only has this main page invoice where we will create our invoice, but also has these extra sheets with clients and products that reads from that other file. And we have that notice there saying that this would be refreshed every time the template was opened. To make sure that works correctly, let's go to Data, Queries and Connections, and then check here, right-click, and then Properties, and make sure that we have this property enabled here, refresh data when opening the file. I want that to happen in this particular case. The enable background refresh, we can leave it there because what this allows Power Query to do is to load the separate queries in parallel without one needing to wait for the other ones. And since these are separate pieces of information that they don't depend on each other, they can be loaded separate in parallel and simultaneously. So that's fine. So we did this for the clients, and let's do the same thing for all the other ones. So make sure we refresh when opening the data file. Okay, and same thing for products, properties here, and refresh data when opening the file. Okay, great. So now we have this set up to be sure that every time we open the invoice template, I'm going to save the file. It's coming up that message. I'll just say yes. And now we know that every time we open the file, we will have the most updated information without us having to worry. So from this invoice to the next one, someone may have had a new product, changed the price to a certain product, or may have had new clients to our list, and all that information will be brought to this file instantaneously without us having to worry when the file is open. So that's a big improvement already, right? Okay, so I'm looking at my cheat sheet here. We went and loaded all the pieces of information. We loaded the queries as tables. We moved the loading destination for the invoices so that that table was shown here instead of on a separate sheet. We and now what can we do next? So one of the things is make sure that we don't do mistakes with the codes that we are going to enter, and the client ID, for example. Make sure that we are entering a valid number there. So we have a few things to do here. The invoice number, we can take care of that right away so that we don't forget. So we already took care of the date field. The invoice number, we now want the invoice to automatically be what we have in K2. When I do this, it refers to the table and column, and it's just one cell. If I do that, that will work. If I do this +1, because that range is only one cell. So no problem about it. But if you prefer, you can also do K2. So you can replace this by K2 if you want, because that reference is in fact a full column, but the column in fact in this case is just one cell. So I'm just being picky here. Both things work. So you see, now with this formula here, I'm going to save. I want to keep this formula. Every time the template opens, it searches for what is the last invoice that we have in our records. Oh, it's 2039. Oh, okay. So in that case, the new invoice will be 2039 +1, it will be 2040. So great. We don't have to worry about looking for the invoice number anymore. Okay. Now I want to bring make possible to edit some make possible to enter the clients without the client numbers and codes without making any mistakes, and the same thing for the product. I'm going to create, I like to create named ranges for that. And let's do the first one with the customer ID. The customer ID, I want to have a drop-down menu here. And the customer ID codes are in this column, in this table. So I'm going to go up here until it appears that little black arrow. Click once. It's not. I want just to select like that. I don't want the header to be part of it. So once we have all the column selected, we can come here to Formulas, Name Manager, and then New. And here I'm going to give a name to my range. I like to call it LST for lists, but you can use the name you want, LST underscore, and then this will be client ID, for example. And here at the bottom, we have the way to refer to a column in a table. So our table is table clients. Remember the name of that query that brought the client's information. And in between brackets, we have client ID, which is the header in this table. That's how we refer to a table. And by doing this, instead of saying A2 to A30 something or 40 something, this will make sure that next time we will consider into this list, Excel will bring into the list all the new entries that we have there, even if they surpass row 40, 50, 100, 1000, it doesn't matter. It will always bring the entire column in that table, okay? So I have this name here, LST client ID. We also have other names here. These are the table names. The print area, we will work with these later, already already came with the invoice template, and that's it. And this is the one we created now. So LST client ID. Let's do close. So why do I need this for? What do I need this for? Into my invoice, I want to make sure that what is typed here is an existing customer ID. So I go to data validation, data tab, and then look for this button, data validation. Here I'm going to say I want to use a list, and in the source I'm going to say F3 to bring me the list of existing names, and I want to pick LST client ID. Or you could just type the name if you didn't forget the name that you just created. So by doing this, now I have all my client IDs here. They may not be sorted. I could create a sorting step on my query. So from now on, you can either come here and say 10-160, choose from the drop down, or you can choose decide to type. So for example, 10-40-467, 10-467. And again, because this is text, I need to put a, or maybe I can just do this. I can come here, home, and say, instead of general, say that this is a text. Okay, so let's try again. If I do 10-467, 10-467, now it doesn't give me the error. So that's what you need to do. You need to change the data type in your cell to text. Okay, let's go and save. The same message, just say yes. So this prevents me from entering here a number that does not exist, for those of you who are not so familiar with data validation. Okay. Claudia is saying, someone recently said that Power Query is at the top of the food chain. I heard that. I can't remember which. Was it Dick Moffat maybe in one of the conferences? Okay, well done. Thank you, Rupan. And yes, Power Query is one of the best tools in Excel if one masters it. Yes, it's fundamental for those of us working with Excel today. Okay, so we took care of this. Let's go. And now we have the names, the date, the list, the fields with client information. So now that we have the client ID being entered here, we can look for the name, the company, the street, the company. In fact, we don't need that. We don't have a company names in this example. We have the street address, city, and zip code, phone, and email address. So let's take care of that. That information, I'm going to come here to view and add a new window. Put that on the side and see the client's information here. Okay, so for client 2040, 10-467, I want to bring the name. We can use different formulas for that. I'm going to use VLOOKUP because not everyone has a recent version with XLOOKUP. If you can use XLOOKUP or even index and match, that one is available to everyone. But I'm going with a simple way today, VLOOKUP. The only thing is that when you use VLOOKUP, you need to make sure that whatever you want to look for, in this case, the customer ID, you would have to look for it. The table where you are looking for it needs to have that information in the first column. Okay, that's the only restriction that we need to take into consideration when we are using VLOOKUP. So okay, F8. That's the field where we have our information about. I'm going to lock that information there with an F4. so that we lock that cell. And where do I want to look for the information is in here. So I do a click, and I don't need the headers, and it automatically gives me the name of the table, so that's fine. And what else do I need? I need the column index, or so to, what is it that we had here? It was the name. So for the client name, it's column 1, 2, column 2 in our table, right? So I come here, in fact here, 2. And do I want an approximate or an exact match? I want an exact match, so I choose false, or I can type a 0 and I can close parentheses. Okay, so it's telling me that customer 10467, customer 10467 is Felicia Harlow. It's correct. And now I can do Control D to copy the formula at the top, and we want to find the street address. So the street address is 123. The only difference in the formula is number 3. Okay. And now I could copy the formula or just Control D. And now I want to bring the city, comma, street, comma, and then space zip. So I can do the following. I can do Control D. The city, in fact, I want the street first. So the street will be, no, the street we have at the top. So I want city and state and zip code. So I want column 4. And then I can copy everything here and go like this. And what this does is concatenate with the space, and then I missed an ampersand there, concatenate with the formula again, and I want to bring so city number 4, and then the state is number 5. And then I can copy this again and say that I want the zip code, which is 123456. Enter. And there we have New Orleans, Louisiana. Maybe instead of a space here, we could put a comma, depending on what your preference is. So state and zip code. Okay. Then the phone number, the same thing. Just copy the formula, come here, and just change the name of the column, the number of the column. The number of the column for the phone number is 123456. Let me just go here, 123456. That's the number of the column for the cell phone, the phone number. So 6. And no, I did it wrong. So apparently 7. Count it wrong. Okay. And same thing for the email address, which is just in the next column, 8. So I can Control D to copy, and then here just put an 8. And then it brings us the email address. So from now on, let's save this. We don't have to populate the client information manually. We just have to come here and type in the client ID number. For example, if I want client ID 10160, just type it there, 10160, and automatically we have all the information about that client that's in the first row here, populated into our invoice template. Okay. What else? We also have the payment terms that we need to bring into here. Okay, so payment terms, it's the exact same thing, formula. Let's just copy there, select here V, and and payment terms are maybe in column 9. Let's try. Yes, so column 9. Saving, okay. So we took care of the column 9. I will do something here. I would like to bring the customer ID maybe to here. So I'm going to unmerge these cells. In fact, I don't like to use merge cells at all. We could discuss the inconvenience of that. I'm going to bring this to here. Oh, this is also merged. So let's first unmerge this. Customer ID, unmerge this. I hate merged cells. We should not work with merged cells. Let's center this and let's bring these two cells into here. Okay. And we can even, for example, give it a little touch of color here. Maybe, is it this color? I think. Just put a border around so that's easier to identify where we need to put information. Okay. And we have the terms, and in here we need to, I would like to have the due date. Okay. So I'm going to put due date here. I have a data validation that was left from the previous merge cells that we had here. We go to data, and in data validation, I can say, I could do clear all, or I also can come here and say any value. So now I deleted, there's no data validation working here anymore. And let's look at our terms and see what is how I can decide on the due date. Let me center here. And okay, so the terms that we have, let's look into the clients. They are always net space and then the number of days that the person is allowed to wait until sending us payment, or it says due upon receipt. I'm going to copy this expression here, Control C, escape. And I'm going to first, instead of the due date, I'm going to determine the number of days that this represents for the time that the person has to pay us. So I'm going to say, if these terms here are equal to, open double quotes, due upon receipt, close double quotes, then the number of days is 0. Otherwise, let's just click here for now. Otherwise, give me that. Because this is set up as text, it put me the formula there. So let's just put that as general. Okay. So it gave me that. What I wanted it to do is this portion, instead of saying net 30, I want it to give me just the 30. Okay. I'm going to do that formula separate here. I want to extract the numbers that are after the space. I can do this in two ways. I can do substitute net space with the portion that says net space with nothing, or I can search for the space and say, give me the right portion that is after. Both are good. I'm going to use the substitute. And I'm going to say substitute in this text H8, and I'm going to lock that cell. The old text would be net space. So if you find net space, then substitute that with empty string, nothing. Okay, and the last parameter instance number, we don't need that, is optional, is if we want to start other than from the beginning. So there we have the 30 there, But if you see, it's aligned to the left. So this is not really a number. This is a text with the two characters 30. If I want to make this a number, I can use another formula called value and close parentheses. Now this is a number, and it's the way I know it is that now it changed to the right. So now I can copy all this formula, Control C, and I can come here to the due date and say, if what we have here in H8 is due upon receipt, then the value is 0. Otherwise, replace this by the formula. Okay, there we go. And we are almost there. The due date is 30 days after the date of the invoice. So what I have to do is say this number of days, or I like to put it at the beginning, it's the same thing. The date of the invoice plus the due date, the number of days. So now I have the due date calculated 30 days after January 23rd, because January has 31 days, it will be February 22nd. I'm going to save. Okay, so we have this solved. And now what else do we need? The description. I want to be able to have a product code and then the description. So I'm going to move this to the second cell. And in here, I'm going to put product ID. That's my code. Maybe we can put just like that to be easier to identify, or maybe just being picky. Product ID, okay, and we can enlarge this a little bit. Okay, so here I want to bring the product, I want to be able to enter products, and based on that, I want the product IDs and the prices to show automatically. So in here, I want to include a data validation. I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the product codes. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go to my products file, products table. I'm going to select the products column. Just make sure it doesn't select the header like that. And then we go to formulas, name manager, new, and products column. Let me put this a little bit bigger. Products column, product ID, products table, and in between brackets, product ID column. That's correct. And I'm going to call this LST for list underscore product codes. Just give it a name that is suitable for you. Say OK and close. So now we have this new named range ready for us to use in different situations. Okay, so let me go back. Here in the invoice, I select all the cells where I want to enter product codes, and then I go to data, data validation, here this icon, and then come to data validation and say I want to use a list, and the source F3 would have to be LST product codes. Okay. So now just say OK. And this puts a validation here that prevents the user to enter something silly that is not the product code. It will say this does not match. We could also customize this message. Because the class is getting long, I'm not going to do this today. Maybe we have the opportunity to look at that another time. So now the user can either choose from here or type manually something. Let's say C01U. Let me type C01U. We can either type, it's accepting well, or just choose from the drop-down. And now on the description, we do a similar, we do a similar process with the VLOOKUP formula, or index and match, or XLOOKUP, depending on your preference. So now I'm going to say VLOOKUP, what's in here, and look into the table products. Let's go and look for this corner. It brings up the name of the table, comma, and I want the product description that is on the second column, 1, 2. So call a second column of the table, and I want an exact match. So it's false, and close parentheses, and that's it. So now we already brought the product code here. We can copy this. The quantity will always be entered manually. The unit price will be brought by this formula. The only thing is that the price is in column 3. It is set up to have this format. We could format it as a currency with $ if we prefer, and the amount already brought, the formula already came, the invoice already came with that information. Let's copy these formulas down, okay? So I need to copy this formula down to here. And now it's telling me not available, not available, not available because of the white space, okay? So what I need, one thing that I can do is say, if in here, A16, I have something other than empty, then look for the information about the product. Otherwise, give me empty, okay? So I can now, if I do now this, now it doesn't show the errors. The same thing for the product. Let's change the formula first. So if this is different and empty, then yes, look up for the price. Look up the price in our table. Otherwise, give me empty. Okay. Now, and now we have a problem with this formula, because when we say put empty, we are entering a text here. And then when the formula is trying to calculate, to multiply, it cannot multiply. So the formula is considering that there is a 1 here when it's empty, because it came, that's how the template came to us. If F16 is empty, F16 is empty, then consider 1, right? Otherwise, multiply what's in there times the price. But because we don't, here the price is a text string, because of the formula that we added, it's not working. So we need to adjust this formula. And we can say, if, again, since we had a formula that was working, we can just add another if statement before and say, if here it's different than empty. So if we have a product code, then follow the same formula as we had before. Otherwise, just give me empty. And that's an easy way to fix it. There would be other options, okay? When I copied down all these formulas, I messed up with the formatting here. They used to have a blue line, so I'm going to just fix that in the more borders. Going to fix that with line here below. Okay, good. And save, and we are good to save it. And we've been in over 1 hour, 30 minutes of class. and we still have the code to do. So I'm going to do the code faster than I would always do. I thought I would do. Just zoom out a little bit. There. So we have our template and we can test it. So for example, if I come here, I choose another product, it always considers the quantity is 1, puts the price there for 1. But if I want to say it's 3, it automates everything. It updates the amount and calculates the sum here. And it's working already beautifully. The only thing is that saving as a PDF and put the information into the registered file, the invoice register file table is not ready yet. So let me know how interested are you in learning that today. If you are up to maybe another 30 minutes or so of class, or if I should postpone that to another class. Jenna, she had to leave. That's fine. Thank you, Jenna, for coming today. So how would you like me to explain the next steps? Would you prefer me to go slower, or would you prefer me to go fast because the class is going too long? Here on the this formula, we don't need it. We can delete it. Oh, I didn't share. Yeah, it was that helper cell to determine the due date. Go, go, go. I'm good either way, says Grain. Okay, same here. Thank you. So I'm going to just try not to spend so much time, but let's go and move to the next steps. Let me check here. So we took care of the date, the terms, the due date, the product ID and description. We fixed the formula for the totals. I think I didn't forget anything. If I did, let me know. And so now let's take care of the save as PDF portion of the file. Let's go and see. We have I have already an invoice created for my I have an invoice created for my a folder for my invoices here, this invoices folder. Going to copy, Control C, this path because I will need it. So the goal is to make save as PDF, put the invoice here with number of invoice, space dash space, number, name of the client. You could choose another format, okay? That's the format I chose to save my PDF invoices. Okay, so for that, I'm going to use the macro recorder for now. Let's go and use the developer tab that we have here. If you don't have that, go to File, Options, and Customize ribbon, and you need to have this here with a check mark, Developer, so that this table, this tab shows for you, okay? Once you have that, Developer, Visual Basic, or you can just type Alt F11. Here is where we see our macros. I have different projects here, but what matters is this one that says Invoice Template Live. That's the name of our file. We don't have any, this shows us all the files all the sheets that we have here. It also has an item that says Workbook. Other opportunities, we will see what that is for. But today we are going to insert a module. Insert a module. And I like to name my modules here. I'm going to say save invoice. That's the programming that we are going to put inside this module. Going to activate view immediate window, just or Control G also does that. Just pasting my information there. And I'm going to start recording a macro, okay? I could record the macro from here. In fact, I don't even know how to record the macro from here. I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to record from here, or developer tab and record macro. Either works. And there's other options, I know. It doesn't matter as long as we know one. So the first thing is save PDF. That's the first macro that we are going to use, save PDF. The name cannot have spaces, and we say OK. And what do we want to do? What would be the manual steps to save this file as PDF? File, save as, and then I just look for my folder, which I am there. No, I'm not. I need to go to the invoices folder. And then the file, I want to save it as a PDF. So I change that file type here. And in here, I'm just going to put a temporary, like a template for the file name. And that file name would be invoice number, and then space dash space, and then client name. And then I go and do save. And when that happens, the PDF is created with that name that I just typed in. I'm going to close this. I don't need the PDF file. And I'm going to stop the recording. Okay. So let's go now. And we can do Alt F11 to open the developer tab. Let's maximize here. And let's look at what we just recorded. In module 1, it created a new module, and it put my code there. It recorded the code for the steps. Every time we have a single quote, it shows green, and it means that this is a comment, not actual lines of code to run. The first thing we have here says change directory to this path. We don't need this, but in fact, I'm going to use this string as my folder, invoices folder. So I'm going to say invoices folder is equal to this string. And I have option explicit up there here at the top. It's an option that forces me to declare my variables. So I need to say what this new thing that I put here is. So I'm going to say dim invoices folder as a string. It's the same thing as saying to VBA, this is a piece of text, okay? And then it went on and said, active sheet, which is the invoices. I was operating from the invoices sheet in my workbook. This sheet here, the invoice, the sheet named invoice. Export that as a PDF. To make sure I'm operating correctly, I'm going to say this workbook dot sheets invoice. I like to do that, but in fact, if we are only going to trigger this file from the invoice sheet because the button will be there, then that would always be the active sheet anyways. So this workbook sheets invoice, and then it goes and export as a fixed format, type PDF, file name, and then it puts this underscore here, meaning that, this line is getting too long, move to the next. So what I'm going to do is, in fact, put the underscore here. Needs to have a space between the underscore, and then move this into there. And then what we have here is that this first portion, I already up to invoice number, no, up to invoices, dash, let me put the dash there. Let me include, not dash, forward slash. Let me include that in that string. So up to here, all this piece is the same as invoices folder. So I can copy this and say the file name is up to here, the invoices folder, and then concatenate that with, and then it would be, if I wanted the name to always be invoice name number dash client name, that exact text, then I would be done. But I want the invoice number to be replaced in each situation by what the exact invoice number is in that situation. So let's do some arrangements here. I'm going to minimize that. So I need the client name and I need the client number. I could, on my code, just refer to the cell invoice number that I need, which is cell, oh, it's merge. Oh my goodness, I hate this. So home, let's go unmerge this. And the invoice number there, it's merge to unmerge. And then I can maybe just do this like that. There, much better. And center. Okay, so I could say on my code, go to column G5, and that would work nicely. The thing is, G5 will be hard-coded in your code, and if you decide later that you want to move these to another place because of design matters and you needed to rearrange things in your template, you will have, the code won't work because the information won't be on G5 anymore. So what I like to do is to come here and give names to the cells that have important information that I need to use on my code, and then refer to the name of the cell, the named range, instead of referring to the cell address. Okay, so invoice, I'm going to call this invoice number. That's the name of this cell. And I also need the client name that is in A8. So I'm coming here at the top and I'll call this client name. So I have a name, client name, and I have invoice number. Two new names that I created. Okay. Now I'm going to use this on my code when I am, okay, here. Going back, I could do Alt F11 to come back here. So now I'm going to, first I need to tell Excel that I'm going to use one new thing called invoice number. And I'm using the same name all over the place, but they are different things. So I'm going to say, consider invoice number as string, not stream, string. And consider, what was it? Client name, I think it was the name of the, as string. So this is the name of the named range, and it will also be the name of our variable here, but they don't have to be the same. For example, I could have called here invoice num, for example, or just number. They don't have to be the same name, but I'm just making them the same I think it's just easier. So now I'm going to explain that the value for the invoice number will be, in fact, I'm going to move this here where I start. This workbook sheets invoice, because that information is also in sheets invoice. I'm going to start here. I'm going to say with this workbook sheets invoice, I'm going to pass this below. I'm going to select this and give it a tap to the right so that I have my code indented and it's easy for me to see that this belongs inside the with cycle, let's call it like that, and end with here. So every, oh, not end with. So every time we have with, we have to close it with end with. And in between with and end with, I can type things referring to the same object that I'm referring to here. This workbook sheets invoice. So with this workbook sheets invoice, and then I start with a dot and say range, and what was the name of that range? Invoice number. That's the name of the range in between double quotes, and then value. Get me that value, and what you have there, this would be my invoice number. So invoice number is equal to what I have in that range, the value of that range, okay? The client name is exactly the same thing, only different names. So client name for my code, the value for that is what you have in range. And I have to put a dot before range to say that is a range in this workbook sheets invoice. In the range client name, close double quotes. And inside that range, look for the value in there. Okay. So now I have a value for the client name, a value for the invoice number. And so now here, when I'm saving my file, I can say that the file name will be the folder that we defined in up here, concatenated with invoice number, but as a variable, not as a text. So I'll take this, and then I'll need to concatenate with a piece of text that is space dash space, double quotes, close here, and then concatenate with the variable client name, and client name picks up what's in that range. Okay, and then concatenate with PDF, .pdf for the extension of the file. That's the name of the file. We have other parameters here. For example, the ignore print areas false. It's important because we are going to define the print areas as well. And open after publish is set to true. So if you want the PDF to open when you create the invoice, you leave it to true. And if you don't want to see the invoice opening every time you create it, the PDF, you put false here, okay? And then at the end, we can do a message box. And it will say success. The prompt will be invoice PDF invoice, oh my goodness, invoice saved. Okay, the buttons are optional, but we can choose VB OK only, a message box with just the OK button, and the title can be success. I think I'm spelling correctly. And we don't need the other parameters. So this will give us a message box to say that everything was created successfully. Let's put save on this. Okay, I get that message because we are using a template. Let's debug our code. Debug. No errors are showing up for now. And now let's go and run this code. Let me see if I didn't forget anything. Oh, we can do the print area right away before we move on to. No, let's test this first. Going to put this to the side, and So our invoice is 2040 and Juniper Bell is the name of our client. Let's bring our folder here. Let's bring our folder and let's bring our code and let's test this code. With F8, I'm going to run one row at a time. F8, F8, invoices folder. So after passing this step, it has the folder there. And then invoice number, if I hover it after passing that step, it's saying that it's 2040, so that's correct. Client name is Juniper Bell, so that's correct. And now it's supposed to create the PDF for us. There's the PDF. We said that we wanted to have it open at the end. Looking good, except you see here the margins. Things are going to page 2, and here, so we have 4 pages in total, not good. So we need to fix that. And then after that, it says invoice saved, success, and all good. So let's take care of the margins aspect of it. I will also use the recorder for that. I'm going to start the recorder here, macro 2, that's fine. We will just copy the code after. And we can come here to file, print. Where's the print? Here. And what would I do in my printing? First, the margins can be narrow so that I can maximize the space available. And then to be sure, I can say that I want to fit all columns in one page. Okay. And what else? And that's it for now. I forgot to define the print area. I could have done that before. So let's go back. And the print area was in fact already defined, but I'm going to, just to make sure so that the code shows for us, select, this is what I want to be the print area. And then in page layout and print titles, no, print area, set print area. Okay, so we did a couple of things here. Let's stop the macro recorder and let's see what we have in the code. And it's a lot of things because we have two sets of the same commands. So these are all the parameters that we can tweak every time we decide on printing something. The page setup area is this arrange. And we can, what I'll do is I'll use just the second set because it's the same parameters, just with the second action that I did. The first one was about the margins, and the second one was about the columns to fit all in one sheet. And the second set of information has all the things correctly. So it starts with application print communications false. Let me maybe put this a little bit bigger. And then it goes on and on with different fields, and then communication true, and then application active sheet printed, and then starts all over again. So we have, after the page setup print area, in fact, that is defined here. So let's say application communications false, print communication true. So it does this once, and then the print area, and then starts this thing, page setup, and then ends up here. So we need everything from here, not everything, but we will look at everything from here up to down here. And the page setup is already included here at the top, so I don't need these 2 rows. So I'm going to copy, Control C, And here on my project Explorer, I'm going to look for the Save Invoice module. Where's my code? Maybe I ended up saving the code in this module. Okay, so we have the code here, save PDF, and what we need is, before we save as a PDF, we need to get our page properly set up. So I'm going to paste this here, and I'm going to select everything and give it a tab to the right to have everything included, aligned correctly. And I'm going to see what I need from here. So the titles and the title columns, I don't need this for this particular case. I could leave it there, wouldn't hurt. So false true, it's fine. And then here, the print area is this one, and it will be always this one in this particular case. That if we have a situation where the invoice can go and reach down multiple pages, then we would have to work on this. This wouldn't work. This would have to have extra work to be set up properly. True, false, true, false. So these two, we don't need this. And then with the active sheet, which is in fact this sheet here, so we can in fact copy everything and put this inside this portion where I'm saying that the sheet where I want to operate is the invoices sheet. And we have, let's see. I don't need left header, center header. So if you wanted to customize these in your invoice, you could enter the text you want in between these two double quotes. We don't need that, or the footer, so I'm going to remove. This is the size for the margins that automatically was picked up by when I said that I wanted narrow margins. So I'm going with these values, that's fine. Print headings false, no, doesn't matter. We could delete that. Print grid lines false. I don't want to print the grid lines in my sheet, so that's fine. Comments, I don't need the comments. I can leave it there or just delete, doesn't matter. Center horizontally is when, if I want to have if I have only a little, if my invoice is not going to occupy the entire width of a column, then I can say to center, so that's fine. Center vertically. Orientation, portrait, fine. Draft, false, doesn't matter. You can leave it depending on how you want to print it, but now this is for PDF, so it doesn't really matter. You can delete this. Paper size, you can define your paper size. Here we use Excel paper letter, but if you are, for example, in Europe, you may want A4 size of paper. That's you will have the options. You need to look for the options available for you here. First number, automatic. Nothing of this is important for what we need. So if we don't refer to this, it will go to the default settings. And here, this is important. I want a zoom false and fit to page wide 1 and tall 1. This means I want all the columns and everything to fit into just one page, columns and rows, okay? This is not really important to define. The first page, even page, we only have one page, so we don't need that. Print errors, we don't need that. We can delete all these. So we deleted a lot of things. Some of the things could even be also eliminated. Application, print communication, true. Okay, so we took care of the page format and layout. And now here is when we say pick up the invoice number, pick up the invoice name, and make it a PDF. So I'm going to save this. Let's debug, compile VBA project. No error is coming up. And let's see if this is working. I'm going to delete those two files from there. And I'm going to hit this button, green button, or we could do F5. Invoice saved. And now it looks beautifully. It looks beautiful. Does it look beautiful or what? I have the impression I'm talking to myself. Does it look beautiful or not, this PDF there? All centered, all nice, all prepared for us. PDFs, invoice saved, okay. The file is in there in our folder. How nice is that? Mayra, nice to see you today. The class will be, the recording will be available later, so you can then, it will take some time to YouTube to process and make it available, but after that, it will be available for you. Great. Nice to hear that this code will be useful for you. Thank you, Claudia. Anyone else appreciating this piece of code? Let me know. Okay, so what else do we want? I want the file to read all the information that I need about my invoice and put it on my other file. And for this, I'm going to just accelerate and copy the code that I prepared previously instead of typing everything step by step. That would probably be more helpful for you to learn and understand everything, but the class is really getting long. So I'm going to just show you the code and explain what it means. In this file, so the code, what we'll do is open the company data file, go to the sheet invoices, and then add a row to this table. And I could do this two ways. One would be look for the next, the first cell that is empty in this column and start putting the information here and expect the table to react, to expand automatically by itself. That's one approach that usually works. But the truth is, sometimes it doesn't work. Tables sometimes are a little bit with strong personality. So I will say, specifically in the code, look for the table, and the table is called the list object in VBA. Look for the table, create a new row into that table, and here are the pieces of information that you need to look in my invoice to put into that row. Okay. So let me bring here, I'm going to call this macro invoice, save invoice data. And then I have another macro to call these other two. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to show you the code and what we need. I'm going to, so just here, yeah, I can leave it open, but here what we will have to do is we will call this item number 1 in the row 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Let's minimize this. Let's bring up the code. And oh, Celia, don't forget to maximize your screen because people won't see. Take your face off the screen. There we go. Okay. So we have a macro called save PDF. We don't need this. It was the product of our recording before. I'm going to Control V here. Oh, this thing here doesn't need. Okay. And what we have here is two new macros. One is called save invoice data, and the other one is called save invoice. And this macro, this subroutine will call the save PDF macro that we created here. And after that, we'll call the save invoice data here. And this is a way of me just call this one, and this one will take care of calling the other two, one after the other. Okay. So let's look at the code of this new macro. Save invoice data. We have a few variables here. Invoices workbook WB is a workbook, and here I say set the invoices workbook as workbooks open, and then this is the path to where I have my company data file, including the extension. I just need to write all the path there. So if you are doing this, you just need to put the correct path in your case here. I also created a variable called invoices SH, I'm speaking Portuguese, invoices SH for invoices sheet. And here I'm saying set invoices sheet as the invoices workbook. So that workbook that I say here, the company data workbook, and inside that workbook, the sheet that is called invoices. And then I say, I also need the table. So dim invoices table as list object. And here I say set invoices table as something that exists in the invoices sheet that I already explained the code VBA, where that was here. It's okay. So go to that sheet that I already told you where it was and look for inside the list objects collection of it, one that says that is named invoices. And that name, for those of you who are not so familiar with tables, every table, not here, every table has a name. When we create a table, we click on the tables, and here on the table, we have this tab, and here on the left we have the name of the table, and we can give the name we want. So I gave invoices name to this table. Okay, that's what that means here. That's the name of the table. What else? Invoices row. So I said invoice row is a list row. This is what we call to a row in a list object in a table. And here I say what I'll be naming or calling invoice row. What this is inside the invoices table that I already explained here what it was. That table on that invoices sheet in the data, in the company data file. List rows add, this means add a new row. So add a new row, and now you call that row invoice row. And then with the invoice row in range 1, meaning in the first cell, in the first cell, the value that I want there is what we have in our invoice. And what is invoice? Invoice, I said it was a worksheet, and I said that invoice is the worksheet invoice in this workbook where I have the macro. So it's we are working on the invoice template, and this workbook, the sheet invoice where we have our invoice template, and look for a range named invoice number. We haven't created this range yet. And that value 2, it could be value or value. In fact, it could be value 1 instead. Sorry, here. Instead of value 2, there's a difference. One works with the values, the other one works with the way the value is formatted when we use dates and currency. And I was doing an experience here yesterday, but we can go with value. It's just easier. Okay. So now we just need to create all these named ranges. And also we have invoices. And then at the end, after what this does is go to that new row, put all these values there. And then when you're done, save the workbook, close the workbook, and then give you the message invoice saved, VB, and OK, success. In fact, I don't want this here. The same way, I don't want this here because we will have the message displayed twice. We just want that message here at the end after we call the two macros, one to save the PDF and one to register the information. Okay, so now we need to finally, what we need is to just create these named ranges. So let me see if I can have the two things here side by side. I need to get out of the Zoom. Okay, so I need a range named invoice number. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to the cell where I have my invoice number, and this is already exists there. We already created this before. The invoice date, Control C, it's in here. So I'm coming to this cell, Control V, enter. Now this cell is named invoice date. I want to, the client ID, Control C, client ID is here. So I want to name this cell, Control V, enter, client ID. And then I need another name called customer name. I think we already named that as something else. We called it client name. So since I already have the name, I'm going to copy the name that I already have here, client name, and I'm going to put it here, client name. I'm saving and it's giving me that message. Amount before tax, Control C, that amount is before tax is this cell. So I select the cell, come here, paste, enter. And then tax amount, Control C, come here, select the cell, paste, enter. And then total amount, Control C, it's in here, select the cell, select there on the name field, paste, enter, Control V, enter. Total amount, invoice terms, Control C, it's in here, this cell, select, Control V, enter. And finally, invoice due date, Control C, select the cell there, paste, enter. All right, so I'm going to save. I'm going to get that message because we are working with a template Excel file. That's fine. So let's debug our code, see everything seems fine. So what I need to do is to call this macro that will call the save PDF, then call the save invoice data macro, and then will give us a message if everything went well. If some error happens in the middle, we will get an alert. I didn't prepare anything here on my macro to deal with errors. That's another story for another chapter of our classes. So I'm going to close this sheet here, this view, I don't need it. I'm going to close the company data file. I don't need it. I don't need anything there to be saved. And in here, let's create a button. And I keep doing the wrong shortcut to Zoom. Okay. So we could do insert in the developer. We have insert, and we can use this as a button, but those are kind of ugly buttons. So we can also have insert and then shapes, and use one of these shapes. It goes on depends on your preference. So let's say here we can do it, give it some style, shade, put it up here. Then we can double click to type something on it, save invoice. Control A to select everything, and then center, bold, okay. And now right click to select the shape. And here we have the option assign macro. And from here, I'm going to say that I want this one, save invoice. That's the macro I need, right? If I'm not mistaken. Let's save this. Yes. So let's see. Let's delete the file. It in fact, when we are saving a PDF, it overwrites. And I'm going to open this. We have the 2040 there. Let's just change something here. Let's put a new product. Oh, something here is not formatted correctly. So our invoice, something here on our cells, this needs to be number general. And now if we do 2, should work. Okay. Make sure that you have everything also formatted correctly here. There's some work that we could do here for when the template opens and this is empty. If you want, you can put if error, then double quotes to show empty so that people don't get scared with these errors. They are not, once the customer ID is chosen here, so everything will come up. So now we have invoice 2040. I changed it to Felicia. I had 4 products, and you will see that I didn't delete the PDF, and the PDF will be overwritten. So that's something to take to have in mind when you create these things. Okay, so let's go and do save invoice, and let's see what happens. The invoice is open. Felicia, for the 4 products, total 372, 42.90 of taxes. Let's close the invoice. Invoice saved. Let's go to and the invoice, you see, it was saved here because it didn't overwrite the other one because I changed the client name, in fact. But if I had not done that, it would have overwritten. You can test that at home and see how it works. And now let's open this file and see. We have invoice number 240, date, client ID, Felicia, etc., etc., payment terms, and that pesky date that is not expanding correctly the format I want. I guess I could just choose the other format that works too. So that's it. That's it. Yay. That was a long class. That was a long class. Do I still have people here watching this very, very long class? I cannot do this so long all the time. What do you think of these classes? I appreciate your suggestions. Going to save these. In fact, let's just do one last test. Going to save the file. That was my template final, right? So double click, it should open an empty. Oh, in fact, I need to clear, that's the last step. Save invoice, everything. Okay, that's interesting. It came cleared. I wonder why it's cleared. I'm wondering if I missed something here. So when I saved the template, I should have cleared the customer ID and cleared the products. But it seems that everything is in here. So that's interesting. I'm not sure why. I didn't do that before I saved my file. So customer ID, let's just pick a new customer just for a final test. 29,176, Xavier, Alan. And invoice 2041, let's just pick one product here, 10 pieces of it. The total will be 350, 45 for tax, 395 total. Save invoice. Invoice is there. You can check if everything is okay. Close it. Okay. You can close the template. You don't need to save it because it was just a copy of the master file. And on the company data, you can check 2041, and apart from that date format that didn't expand correctly, everything is in there, Xavier 350, etc., etc. So it's working. It's working. Yay! It's working. It's working, people. It took us 2.5 hours, approximately, almost, to take care of these tasks, to automate all this system. Imagine the time that this would save to everyone, to someone using the system from now on. Let's see if I have any comments here. Powerful and absolutely awesome content. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Myra, you're welcome. Grain, you did it. Grain is my neighbor, you know. She lives here close to me, and we discuss Excel. We are both nuts for Excel, and we discuss Excel many times. Grain is also a member of the Toronto Meetup group. She helps us with the chapters of the videos that we have available on YouTube. Thank you, Nuno. Long but very good. Thank you, Grain. I know you mean it. When you say it, you mean it. Thank you, Claudia. I think it's another file because the button is not in the same place. Maybe I opened. Good point. So let me just, you know, what was it? I opened the file that I already had created. So okay, let me a final thing here that we didn't do is that, so I ran this file, but I ran that one that says final, but what we built was this one. Thank you, Claudia. At this point, I'm a little bit tired maybe, and I messed up a little bit, so that's fine. Right click open. So as a last step that you need to do with your template is that before you make it available for usage, you need to come here and delete everything that you want to be cleaned when the user opens the file. Okay, delete this. Maybe select, it is a nice touch, select where the user should start, because this way the file will always open with that cell selected. Like I said, we should come here and do if error, or then if this different than empty, then do that. Otherwise, give me an empty cell. And this will remove these NAs, and then you can do the same thing on these cells and this one and these ones, and say, if you don't have a customer ID, then don't do anything with these cells, otherwise do that formula. So select this cell and now save. Yes. Nice catch, Claudia. Yeah, the button is a little bit different and in the different place. So now when you close it and someone comes and double clicks to open the file, everything is empty and is ready to start by selecting a customer. It's still loading the customers. We need to wait a little bit. So now it's ready to select the customer ID and then go from here and save the invoice. Okay, so that's the last step that you need to take care, is to clean your clean your template. Okay. Lovely, says Marta. Thank you so much, everyone. I do appreciate those of you who stayed here for this very long class. The class again will be available after YouTube renders this. Will be available on YouTube, I believe, on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram as well. And if you want to join the Telegram group that I mentioned beginning of the class, feel free to join the Telegram group, and I'll put in my comments what the Telegram address is, and this will give you access to the files that I used in this class, and you can practice using, can download the files and practice using those files. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Take good care. Stay home if you are in a place where COVID is taking care of our lives, or not taking good care of our lives. Stay safe. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. And we will see you around next week. I'm trying to do 2 live classes every week. I'm still trying to figure out the best days, but we'll work on that. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Thank you for your support. Bye now.